All right, welcome everybody to the Business of Speaking show. I am your host, Tim McDonald, and I am joined by my very dear friend, Ayelet Baron. How are you, Ayelet?
I'm doing great. Look at where I am in my imagination.
Well, it looks like you're actually there. The wind blowing and the waves coming up on the beach all together at once. So, for those of you who may not know what the Business of Speaking show is, it's really a show where I have the opportunity to interview speakers, not on what they talk about on the stage, but their journey of how they got there and what they've learned ever since. So, with that getting started, let's have you, Ayelet, which I don't think I've ever talked to you about this out of all the things we talked about. Tell us your story of how you got started speaking.
Well, I think you don't mean when I was 2 or 3 years old, right?
Not like language, but like kind of getting up in front of people on stage the way most of us talk about speaking in this industry.
I know, but I can't start something with you without a laugh. For me, it was when I fired myself from my PhD program and I started working in market research, doing a lot of public opinion polling in the beginning for the national newspaper in Canada. And then I decided to do a career transition and got into consulting around organizational change, internal communication, culture. And I wasn't getting everything I needed from my work. So I decided to join an industry association. And when I started, I didn't realize that I would end up being the president of the association's largest chapter. And it forced me every lunch to introduce the speakers and to get up and talk in front of a crowd. And as I started doing it, I soon transformed into being a speaker, both in Canada and then internationally as well. So it was never kind of like an intention to do it, but it was just an ability to share information and address things that I had a lot of knowledge about.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. That's what I'm kind of picking up a trend. Nobody, I think, starts out, well, I shouldn't say nobody, because I'm sure there's going to be somebody that's going to surprise me, but almost nobody talks about, I knew from the time I was very young that I wanted to be a speaker and nothing else. so so tell us, what was it like, because I know, from my experience at least, getting up in front of a group of people and introducing somebody else, or talking about a topic that's work related in a meeting or something like that, is much different, I think, than getting up on front of a stage where you're the one where all the eyes are focused on. And do you remember that first time that you did that? And what was that? What were you feeling? What was that like?
I was feeling amazement because for people who know me, they'll be shocked to know that I was really shy when I was young. And I would have like to convince myself to go into a store and to buy something. It took a lot of courage for me to do those things because I was incredibly shy. You might be surprised that I was shy as well, Tim. I don't know. And so, the first step of getting up and introducing other people was to get over that terrifying fear of and shyness that I had about realizing that I have this voice. And the first time I was there, it was as though I was like watching myself and going, I can't believe that, we can really do what we set our minds to do and get over ourselves. And it was a really amazing experience, not because I got up and to speak, it was because of the conversations I had afterwards of people who came to engage with me, not while I was on stage, but afterwards, and telling them what the talk did for them. And, we got to co-create after that and doing that like really early on. I also started doing a lot of workshops. I had a specialization in metrics and measurement as well. And so I would do a lot of workshops on that. And I actually enjoyed that a lot more because I got to have dialogue and to really listen to people's questions rather than to stand on the stage and talk. Ironically, if I had completed my PhD, if I had done my dissertation, I would be standing in front of people teaching, which I had to do during, when I started for my master's and my doctor as well. I was teaching, so I was standing in front of people and talking, but it was a very different experience of not feeling like I was the lecturer or I was the teacher, and stepping into these big shoes that I felt that speakers have in the world.
Yeah, it's interesting is, I'm listening about it wasn't so much what you said up on the stage, but what happened after you got off the stage. And how have you kind of used that and, you know, had it work for you so that you got more of that instead of just being, the person that everybody's listening to?
Well, I think I remember a talk I did in Mexico, which is probably where this picture is. I don't know, in front of 500 people, and I just, as I walked up to speak, my necklace, which was totally closed in a clasp, fell into my hand. And I had the audio on like you, and I was ready to go, and there were 500 people there sitting and waiting, and all of a sudden my necklace, and I had no time to pause and to say what has happened. And what I felt at that point, when I look back at it, it was like the universe telling me that it was time to get my voice out. And when I took that stage, I just let myself go. And right afterwards, this guy came up to me and said, I thought you were just going to be one of these other speakers that comes from a corporate background that's going to tell me all this stuff. And I was sitting back and I was really skeptical. And then you started talking and I was just like, oh my God, she speaks my language. She's talking about things that are relevant to me. I can relate to this. It's not just like propaganda or, a canned speech or something. It's really real. And it was interesting. He then followed up with an email, and I actually captured something that he wrote about fear in my book, Our Journey to Corporate Sanity. And so like from that little moment of that talk, I have something now that is part of a book that I wrote. And then he also was doing some work, and I helped him. I didn't charge him or anything, but I just worked with him on an idea that he had and connected him with people that I thought would be valuable for him. And I have so many stories like this. This is just like one example, but it's about being able to touch people in this way that really makes it important to me, rather than, am I the most popular speaker? Am I the most loved or the most liked? It's about making an impact.
Well, and how has that kind of evolved ever since that moment when you had that realization for you?
It actually freed me quite a bit. And I remember I got invited to speak at this very conservative organization, and I asked them multiple times if they're ready for me. and and they said yes, but I didn't realize that one of the reasons they invited me to speak as a futurist was to be a shock factor for their boss. And instead of I love the fact that I didn't know it, and I could just really be factual and talk about things that are coming and things that people need to be aware of, and not be bound by the fact that, oh, I'm getting paid for this, so I have to say what they want me to say. And being very clear that what I bring is very different than what most people bring, because I don't think we're going to shift unless we start saying what's truly in our hearts. And I think that a lot of things that are really important is our ability to find our voice. And if my being up there encourages, 100, 200, 500, or one person to find their voice and to come into work the next day and be able to be, a more healthy person, then I've done my work. I may not be invited back again, but that's okay.
So, well, and I know just based upon some conversations that you and I have had, that you have actually mentioned, and I don't know if this still holds true or not, but that your goal was not to be a speaker and travel and get on stages. And so, how do you have a speaking business? How do you get that message out? How do you connect with people if you're not traveling and getting up on stages?
Well, my dream has always been to be an author. And I actually went the other route. I became a speaker. before I started writing. And so I've been putting on a little bit of a pause the last probably the last 8 months, and really focusing on the writing and hoping that once my triplets, my book series comes out in the fall of 2020, then I could come in and speak again. And again, the world has changed. So being able to do it virtually, being able to do it, I'd love to like have more dialogue, and really take an issue and talk to people, and understand what their problems and opportunities are. Because one of the things that I'm bringing into the world is, we need to step away from the problem solution mindset and really move into opportunity creators. So once I get these books out, I'm going to be going out into the world and saying, here, I'm available to come and talk about how we look at opportunities, how do we really lead in the 21st century in a conscious way, and understand that leadership is not outside ourselves. So the second book is really about trekking into the unknown, and I'm living it in every possible way right now. So it would be great to come back on the show, like a year from now, and truly answer that question for you about what I did, because right now I'm super excited to just trek into the unknown without a manual, without, a lot of people just, it's kind of wonderful and crazy. A lot of people kind of find me, and, in working right now to figure out how to get these books out to the people that are ready for them, which is very non-traditional, than just rather like getting out a book, because I've written a book for the human soul. And so there's not like a cookie cutter way to get it out. And I think that will help me with partnership with people like you and other people out there, that we can get our messages out, which is why I love what you're doing here, and believe in it. So I think, again, I've been very blessed. I've worked in over 100 countries around the world, and whether I got to speak as a business of you defining it, but when I was a corporate executive, I spoke a lot in company events and internally, and I guess I got paid for it because I was an employee. So I don't know what your qualification is, but I've always been very bold and very fearless, because I think that, our time on earth is very precious, and we came here to really create, and that's what it's all about. So a year from now, I might be able to answer your question, but right now I'm trekking into the unknown, trusting my heart and discovering, the wonder of me. So we can discover the wonder of everybody and really shift things on this planet in a really healthy way.
So and I, by the way, I just love and adore all that and you, but I'm just, as I'm listening and I relate it to what I've seen and heard from so many others, they're talking about like, if you're a speaker, if you want to be a speaker, write a book, right? And I'm hearing you that you were a speaker. You're not writing the book to get more speaking, but you've kind of put that on pause while you're writing the book. But how does that, I mean, how do you kind of envision? I know it's unknown and I know you don't know exactly, but how has it kind of been like, or what's your thoughts on how that relates to, how you market the book, right? How you get the book to more people through speaking, and how the book actually helps you get more speaking. Because it sounds like in the past you've always had opportunities that have presented themselves to you because of what you've done, and it sounds like that's the same approach that you're trusting yourself with moving forward.
Yeah, I think I've been published quite a bit before, like even my book, but because I was like really busy working in corporate, I didn't have time to write the book. I was too busy working. Um, and
Wait, this isn't work? Writing a book is not work?
it is the hardest work I've ever done in my life. And things are just coming out really quickly. But I think again, I'm not your traditional person. I don't, I put down the manual of success. I've actually had a little burning ceremony of it as well. And I'm really looking at ways like, I'm reaching out to people And it's amazing. I look at who I'm starting to connect with out in the world from a heart based, and who I want to also represent, and connect with the work that I'm creating, because it's not for everyone. You know, it's not something that will appeal to everybody. I'm really looking for the people that, or and the companies that really want to look at opportunities and are willing to take risks and do things in a much healthier way than today. Because, you know, to me, the most important app for the 21st century is humanity itself. And, you know, coming from a technology background and working on making companies incredibly successful, I realized that we have to get back to our humanity in how we treat ourselves and how we treat others. So yesterday I had the most amazing conversation with someone who I never ever imagined I would connect with. And at the end of it, she said to me, just let me know and we'll do a podcast together. And if you want to get other people, let's do it. And, you know, I'm being guided and advised to go find the influencers. And I've taken it to a different level of the people that are influencing the people that I know would resonate with the books, which is very different because I'm not looking at it from an audience perspective. And I think that from a speaking perspective, I'm really starting to think differently about how I approach this, because I am not, you know, a billion-dollar company that I worked for before. I am, you know, just little old me here, a little speck in the universe. And so how could this, you know, tiny little person get out there and be able to open hearts and minds that are ready to be opened or play with, or, you know, like, you know, my dream is like that we get to play and create together. And because I don't have your answers, because I don't know you. I was just writing about it this morning, or editing, you know, that, you know, we've got to stop telling people how to do things when we don't know who they are. And we've got to really understand our power source. And so everything that I'm writing or putting in these books, I'm practicing. And when I don't, the universe kicks my ass like you won't believe. So I think for me, the marketing piece is really something that you and I have talked about a lot, which is relationships, trust, and community. And being able to be trusted in someone else's community is one of the things that's I'm seeing as really important, rather than saying, oh, you're an influencer, here's my message, just put it out. It's no, it's like, how do our messages intertwine and interconnect so we can have a bigger influence in the world? And I'm asking a question. Like yesterday, I think I threw this person totally off when I said to her, how can I help you? And it went quiet for like a couple of seconds, and she said, you're so sweet. i said I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, this call's about you. And I said, no, this call's about us and what we can create in the world. And I think that's the opportunity, is when you know, this is what you're doing, Tim, here, from what I see too, is building community. And when more of us come together and we don't have to compete, and we could lift each other up and say, hey, I know somebody who's great for this, and not feeling like I missed out on something, because that's that interconnectedness and support that we can create in the world, and we could write new stories. And that's what I'm here for.
I It's one thing I think that I've been finding too, is it's a common theme amongst everybody that I've talked to so far, about just that support and that community, and the helping each other out, and it becoming more and more clear that it's there. It just nobody really talks about it, you know. And I love being able to shed that light on that, and that's why I'm not focused on like all the blueprints and the secrets, and you know, the it's more about, who are these people, how did they get involved in this, what have they learned along the way, so that anybody wanting to get involved can see that there's not one path. It's so diverse and so different. So you know, if you could go back and, knowing what you know now, and talk to your younger self when you were first getting involved in speaking, what advice would you give yourself?
Don't wait so long to let your voice out, I mean, I was on a call on Friday with a bunch of friends that I went to the Amazon rainforest with, and one of them was telling me that she's doing these webinars with how to look appropriate on Zoom, and she started going through all the steps, and then she looked at me at my little box and she said, now Ayelet, you should be doing blah blah blah. And I just looked at her and I said, now you know me and being appropriate. I said, I'm on the friends and family Zoom. I'm sitting on the sofa. I don't, I don't, I'm not the appropriate one to bring in all the time, because, if some of us don't start breaking the rules when it makes sense and when it's healthy, not just casually, then, we're all going to be the same. And how boring is that? Our education system already, is failing because it puts everybody in the same direction. And, when you're in kindergarten and nursery, you're encouraged to tap into your imagination. But once you start getting into elementary school, you're told to shut it off and to be like everyone else. And so, there was a point in my life until I started really seeing the world for what it is, and in healthy eyes, that I started walking away from how things are supposed to be and what was accepted and what was not accepted, because I started to know what it was for me. So I would give my younger self that advice, but I'm not sure she would understand it, because I think she would have had to go through all the things, all the amazing times, the wounds, the traumas, all the stuff that we all go through. And so, and it leads you back to here. So I'm grateful for, even though some of them were heartbreaking and still are, I'm just grateful for all of it. But I think I would love for young people to know what's healthy and unhealthy for them, and not to buy into that this is the way it's supposed to be, and find our own rhythm and our own harmony to be able to follow it, because I think that is what kind of inspires ourselves. And when we're inspired, we're on fire to inspire other people.
This has been wonderful, and I know I can keep talking to you forever. But what, let people know, where they can find you, how they can learn more about your books. And I know that even if you're not out speaking as much right now because you're writing, you're sharing a lot of that writing. So where can they find you and connect with you?
So the first thing you need to know, you don't need to know so much how to pronounce my name, but you need to know how to spell it. And if you spell it, you could find me everywhere, I think. And so it's Ayelet, Ayelet. It's Ayelet. The last name is Baron, because Ayelet is a very common name in some places. So the last name is spelled Baron. And you could email me at ayelet27@gmail.com. That's my eternal age. You could find me on Twitter as Ayelet B, on Medium as well, Ayelet B. It's mostly Ayelet B in most places, unless it was taken, because it is a popular name in some cultures.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being a guest. And I'm sure you have or will have your information about your upcoming books, I'm sure, listed on
Yeah.
those places.
You can
Yes.
also go to Amazon. The book, Our Journey to Corporate Sanity, and my book series will be coming out in the fall of 2020. Thanks, Tim. And it's called Fuck the Bucket List. The first book is called Fuck the Bucket List for the Soul, Discover the Wonder of You.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. So thank you so much, Ayelet, and thank everybody for tuning in and watching. And if you are new to the end of the program, at the end, I always stop the YouTube live broadcast, but I keep my guest on and record one question with them that only goes out to our email subscribers. So if you haven't already subscribed, hop on over to speaking.business. That's instead of .com, it's .business, speaking.business, and join our community and sign up for the email list over there. And you will be getting weekly answers that you aren't going to find anywhere else. So stay tuned, and we will see you soon.